This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, reviewing what happened on Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway and what we think might happen coming up this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the last race of the regular season on the Cup side. And we have a new entrant into the playoff sweepstakes as Eric Jones goes to victory lane at Darlington.
After sitting around for 4 extra hours, we did get the race in. This is the red eye version, and none of us really flew anywhere, but it's definitely a red eye version. And what we saw was a gentleman work his way into the playoffs by winning, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that knocks somebody out because now the only way they can get in possibly is winning. Jimmy Johnson, for the first time, runs the risk of not making the playoffs, and that's pretty impressive to say he's had a run that long, but it's scary at the same time to see that run possibly come to an end. We'll notice here in a week or so whether Jimmy Johnson makes the playoffs.
To be fair, they had a really good car and a competitive car and could have gained, maybe should have gained a bunch of points, but got swept up in one of the bigger wrecks you'll see at Darlington when Daniel Hemrick lost a tire. But he said it was started laps earlier. I interviewed him at the Care Center when he got together with the 6 car, who also got together with Daniel Suarez on the night and didn't make a lot of friends.
Well, you see Daniel Suarez and Ryan Newman racing very hard for one particular reason. They got one more race after Darlington to make the playoffs, and they're right there at the cusp. I think they're tied now, points-wise.
They are.
And Daniel has that tiebreaker for best finish, 3rd over 5th, I believe. And that's exactly how close the points. So we come down to 26 races, which will be our 26th race next week. Last night's race, this morning's race.
Today's race.
Today's race. Earlier we were at the
Finished
track.
about 2 a.m.
Exactly right. They're tied for points. That's a pretty good point system, in my opinion. Those guys have been on top of each other back and forth, and ironically enough, they got together last night. So Ryan Newman wasn't happy with Daniel Suarez, as he shouldn't be. Obviously, Daniel Suarez wasn't happy with Ryan Newman. That's why he moved him out of the way.
Yeah, he surely
did. Exactly right.
And then Daniel Hemrick blamed contact with Newman for making his tire go down, which swept up several others, including Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, the 24.
I think Kurt Busch got some of it.
Kurt Busch got a little bit. It really changed the complexion of the race, and that opened up the door for Eric Jones. And then from that point on with Kyle Larson, they drove an incredibly race.
Yeah.
No mistakes, tight against the wall, tight with each other, working lap traffic, and really had a good race. Kyle Larson blamed it on the old arrow push, not being able to get by. And had he gotten by, he probably would have been a little bit faster, but couldn't win the race off pit road. Those guys, the Gibbs guys, were
and what a great
restart
that was.
It was a great restart, the way he managed the front row. Eric Jones did an amazing job, almost years above his experience level performance that he was doing. And again, a little twist of nobody really paid attention to this, and we're going to talk about it. But Saturday's race with Denny Hamlin, the spotter of that race was Rick Corelli.
High Plains drifter.
That win got taken away.
Yep.
He got to spot Eric Jones and got the win. So
he got it anyway. Karma came around.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
so
how about that?
24 hours went from hero to zero back to hero again.
There you go.
So I really felt good for Rick, and we talked about it after the race. But
he laughed, he cried. It was the race of the year.
Exactly.
And we're giving away free stuff. Kevin Harvick does it. He pays it off again. A top 10 finish means you can get a free Bloomin' Onion on Monday at Outback Steakhouse. It is Bloomin' Monday. Go over there and tell him Kevin Harvick did it again. Give me that onion with your meal and share it with some friends.
You may drive your car over there on your free set of tires we're giving away later on, too.
Hercules is back, ready to rock and roll.
We're going to show you how to do that later on in the show, too.
All right, but first, let's check out Eric Jones. He discussed the win at Darlington this morning.
The tracks I grew up racing are real similar to this place. I relate this place a lot to a place called Winchester up in Indiana and a place called Berlin up in Michigan, and 2 different tracks in a lot of ways, but Berlin was really tough on tires, and Winchester, I ran a real similar line there actually to what I run here. Most of the time I run a real low line around here, which is a little off, I guess, for most, but, it works pretty good for myself, and kind of learned that at Winchester racing late models, and this is the one track where I feel like my short track stuff really transfers over, and as far as saving tires and managing your stuff, and that's what makes it fun. I've always been a fan of Darlington, and I think maybe my age helped with the fact we finished at 2 a.m. more than anything, This is about the time I'm, waking up. I feel good right now. So, no, it's awesome, man. I mean, the Southern 500's one that real high on my bucket list of races to win in my career, and it sure feels good to get one this early.
I think it's high on every driver's bucket list. It's one of the crown jewels of the sport.
A win in any racetrack in any of the 3 series are fantastic. But then you take the wins and you elevate them to another level, and you have 4 crown jewel races. You have the Daytona 500, you have the Southern 500, you have the Brickyard 400, and the Coca-Cola 600. Those are considered the crown jewels. I've been very blessed in 22 years or 23 years to get 3 of those. And I missed out on the Coke 600 several years back. But he talks about early in his career right now, he's already a Southern 500 champion. And now what's really cool about that trophy is not only do they put your face in the walk-through tunnel over in Turn 1, every single winner of Darlington since the track has been opened has a sticker on the wall that the fans can go through and memorialize, if you will, all the winners. But they also put your face on the trophy.
Very
so
cool.
Every trophy that you see of every driver that ever gets a trophy has every picture of every face on it. So your face is memorialized for the rest
Stays there forever.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's ever. As long as Darlington has a trophy, your face is on it. And that's really cool.
It is. And for Eric Jones, a 23-year-old driver who not so long ago was hearing the drumbeat of, is he going to be in that car next year, now seems at least a little more secure for next year, even though Joe Gibbs keeps saying, we want Eric back, we need to have him in the car. Now it makes it a little easier for that organization to say, you know what? We've got a race winner here you can sponsor.
Yeah, it's a tough problem to have over at Joe Gibbs Racing. They've got a really good group of guys already. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, those guys. And then they got Christopher Bell sitting over there waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how that works out, to have too many good drivers and not enough cars.
All right, we'll take a quick time out here on Motorsports Monday. No, it's not Motorsports Monday
Well,
anymore.
it's
See how
Monday.
sleepy I am? It is Monday after the race at Darlington. It's MRN Out Loud. But coming up on the program, we'll hear from Cole Custer about what Joey mentioned, how he wound up being the victor at Darlington in the Xfinity Series. Later on, we'll hear from Brad Keselowski about running at Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend, the finale of the regular season. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the points implications are as we wind up the regular season. It's all ahead on MRN Out Loud. Stay with us.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame and see how Petty, Earnhardt, and hundreds of other NASCAR legends became heroes. Watch their most electrifying moments, experience realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
When the racing concludes each weekend, keep up with the non-stop NASCAR news each weekday on NASCAR Today Midday.
The drafting type races I've always excelled in, so that's where I see a tremendous advantage.
I think it was very important for us to get Martin and to get Cole, both of those as a group, because they're very good at what they do.
NASCAR Today Midday, Monday through Friday on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, reviewing what happened at Darlington Raceway on Throwback Weekend and what's going to happen this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the regular season finale for the Cup drivers. The Truck and Xfinity Series schedules don't quite match up in terms of when the playoffs begin for both of those series. But Cole Custer, as you mentioned, goes to victory lane, and he and Denny Hamlin had a whale of a battle to the finish on Saturday.
Yep, for the second time, I believe, this year, a second-place car drove to victory lane, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, you don't have that all that
No,
often.
and he actually didn't go to victory lane.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other odd thing about this
He didn't know yet. He had to get through. Tech.
It's the one we could argue about it and have a place in history, but for a number of years, NASCAR never took a win away.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a 7 million cubic inch engine with 65 cylinders, but they would never take the win away. They would fine you heavily and penalize you. You'd have a month off of racing, whatever. But you got to take the trophy home and say, I won that race because you were the first car across victory lane. This year, 2019, they said, okay, we're done with that. We get tired of hearing cars that cheated or did not pass inspection because they were illegal or out of tolerance or whatever word you choose to use. And now we're going to take the win away. After the race, they inspect Denny Hamlin's car, who admitted that they stuck several rounds in the right rear to try to free that car up. And it had the right rear of the car up too high, which pins the left front of the nose down too low. And that's a tolerance in the Xfinity Series, and it did not pass heights. The one corner was too low, the other corner was too high, and that's wrong. So they take the win away. Cole Custer, who's sitting around the track, finds out he wins.
Minding his own business.
What's he do? He says, I Steve Austin'd it, man. I went and pounded me some beers. And that was, and we talk about it on this show several times. Cole Custer has come out of that shell.
He has.
2 or 3 years ago, he wouldn't have been talking about
He was so shy, he wouldn't even look at you.
He probably wouldn't even drink beer, right?
Yeah,
he wouldn't talk about
or at least tell anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now he's talking about Steve Austin and some beer. So good for those guys. They put on a whale of a show there at the end of the race. Cole Custer and Denny Hamlin, who I had picked before the race. It was kind of interesting. I said Denny was going to win, starting dead last.
Yep.
I said Ryan Blaney would finish top 5.
He did.
And
he led a bunch, too.
And I said Dale Jr. would easily be in the top 8, which he ended up finishing 5th after the shuffle, finished 6th on the track, and then 5th in the standing. So all 3 guys that I was paying attention to did their jobs, and I thought it was really cool. It was a great, great scene to see Dale Jr. back at the track for his one race of the year.
Really cool.
And I was blown away that Darlington, he hadn't raced in 20 years.
In the Xfinity Series.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the Xfinity Series.
And this is a guy that owns a team that has an all-star car that they rotate guys in and out of.
Hadn't run since 1998, back in DEI days in the AC Delco car with Tony Jr. and Tony Sr. and those guys.
Well, that was a classic car.
Exactly. That was beautiful. And I just was amazed that it's been 21 years now, and he did a heck of a job. He admitted he did better than he thought. He was a little nervous, typical Dale Jr. fashion. But the fans, he took the time on the pit road to walk down and sign, and
he did.
Outblew everybody on souvenir sales, and it was really cool
sure
to
he
watch.
did. Yeah, it was really cool. Yep. But Cole Custer gets the victory a little belatedly. Here's what he had to say after the race.
I was just standing by the hauler, and everybody started kind of going around the tech shed, and I got a call from my crew chief, and he was standing like 15 feet away from me, like, they're too low. And so it was pretty crazy. I mean, and then you're just praying that you make it through tech, but it was it was just a strange way to win, that's for sure. You don't want to win them that way, but it is what it is. We all play by the same rules. Was that the deciding factor? No. That's not going to, the reason he won the race. But I think, but it is what it is. We came home we get the points, we get the money, we get everything, we get the trophy, I guess. So, it's a way to win it. We'll take it.
So Cole Custer gets the victory, and he is piling up a really solid season. Of course, one of the big 3 on the Xfinity side, with Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell being the others. There's still some doubt about who might that 4th guy be that is the real threat to make it to Homestead and the championship 4 in the Xfinity Series. We've talked a lot about Justin Allgaier, who had a good car but pounded the wall. He got more than a Darlington stripe. He got a Darlington dent, and the car wasn't as good after that, as similar to what happened with Kyle Busch at the end of the Cup race. But I think he might be the guy, at least we've been saying that, who could be that real threat to be the 4th guy, but it's pretty wide open.
To watch Kyle Busch run the last lap and a half at Darlington was such an arcade game. It was hilarious.
He was scraping the wall.
Just against the wall, had a tire go down, so instead of pitting, he just put his car against the wall, matted the gas, and just let the wall get his car back
Take him around.
And he didn't give up but one spot.
Yeah.
It was pretty spectacular. But we saw Austin Cindric get those 2 wins earlier and kind of supplement himself in that 4th spot. But really, the cars behind him, you have the Chase Briscoes, Michael Annett, Justin Allgaier, Noah Gragson. I just keep waiting for somebody to step up and compete at a level. And again, the 22's got those 2 wins, but they were road course races. He's going to have to step up in the game because we don't have any more road courses.
Well, he's got
now.
the Roval still.
Well, we do have the Roval, but we don't win the championship at the Roval, right? And that's where it's going to take to come down to Homestead. And those are the kind of tracks that the other 3 drivers are really, really good at.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to watch the Xfinity Series coming down to the wire. They, of course, back in action this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. And I still miss the days of when they ran at IRP. They put on a really good show at Indianapolis since they've gone to that new package. It's improved the racing in the Xfinity Series. We'll find out what it's going to be like with the Cup Series coming up, and we'll hear from Brad Keselowski a little bit later talking about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But on the Xfinity side, to me, Austin Cindric might be that guy, because while he hasn't won at a track besides the road courses so far, his performances seem to have been picking up, and with that Roval in there, not that it's the championship race, but it can propel him to the championship round.
Yeah, if you're going to look at one track where one driver is going to be better than the rest, that's definitely the Roval. But again, we saw the Christopher Bells and the Justin Allgaiers, and those guys are going to run good at the road course too. It's not a given. But if you were going to take,
and even after winning the road course, Bell still says, "I'm not a road course guy. I can't do this.
I just lucked into it.
I just won. That's all."
But if you were going to take one track with one driver to try to get to Homestead, that would be the Roval with Austin Cindric.
Yeah, absolutely, it would. All right, we're going to take another quick timeout here on MRN Out Loud, and we'll start turning our focus toward the Indianapolis Motor Speedway next.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away one set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders, because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Hi folks, Mike Bagley here. At MRN, we rely on equipment from Racing Electronics.
Joey Logano to the lead on the back straightaway.
Racing Electronics has scanners and headphones. We can listen to every uncensored conversation between driver and crew.
You won the championship, baby, yeah!
And when we need live audio, in-car cameras, and up-to-the-second statistics, we use their latest handheld unit called Legend. To learn more about these products and many others, visit RacingElectronics.com. Racing Electronics, the official two-way communication partner of MRN.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, back with you. It is Bloomin' Monday. If you're with us on a Labor Day Monday, Little Herc is taking Labor Day. Little Joey is here to remind you to go get that free Bloomin' Onion.
Very, very happy little Joey.
Yeah, he is.
Kevin Harvick did a good job. Actually overcame an electrical issue. Earlier in the race, we got told, hey, the 4 car is starting to lay down. It's got an electrical issue. Be aware. And they overcame it and did a good job and ended up finishing top 5, had a very fast race car and had to come over some problems. But that seems to be the story of their year all year long. It's not performance or speed. There's always some other glitch that pulls them out of the top 2, contending cars. They've been able to win a race, but they just need to be able to get rid of those. And it's not really mistakes, but there's those little glitches.
Something. That little nagging something that always seems to jump up and bite them. The question is, can they shake it off for the playoff run?
The performance is what everybody looks for. Everything else is easily fixed because you can identify the problem. When you're not running well, you don't know if it's a shock, a spring, an aero, a driving style, right? But when you have a glitch, when you have those little issues, you can put your finger on it. If it was an electrical issue, battery related, that's a battery problem. Or, okay, we're going to get new batteries. If it's an alternator issue, hey, we haven't had an alternator issue in 5 years. You can put your finger on it. And most of your race teams would give up have that problem versus having a performance problem. The teams that aren't performing well are going, man, where are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? There's meetings going on right now. We just got back from the track 4, 5, 6 hours ago, and they're meeting about how do we go faster. Jimmy Johnson has to make the playoffs. Those guys are talking about performance, trying to find that niche.
Got to find a way to make up 18 points at Indy.
Exactly, to the guys in front of them, right?
Right,
They're
right.
running good.
At least one of them.
Whereas Kevin Harvick and those guys at Rodney and Childress, they're having a meeting going, okay, how do we fix the alternator?
It's got to feel like a game of whack-a-mole to Rodney because they knock down the pit road mistake. Then it's a battery. They knock that one down. And then it's something else and something else. And it just keeps something popping up.
But luckily, we still have 10 races left, right?
Yeah.
After Indy, it's 11 races now, 1 race to Indy, and then the last 10 for the playoffs. And they're solidly in that first stage. And again, their performance has been really good. So that's the one thing, you're always trying to talk about momentum. When you have it, it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't, you're like, we don't really need that momentum stuff.
We'll figure it out.
Exactly. Well, they have some of it. They're in that first round, and they have performance, which is what every race team wants.
Well, what jumped out at you about the weekend? For me, it was the throwback weekend and seeing all the paint schemes and even the teams wearing the uniforms. We had the Motor Racing Network car with Spire Sports and Reed Sorensen behind the wheel, the MRN 50th car. We had our throwback hats as well. That car looked really cool, and Reed Sorensen gave it a pretty good run. And as we know, Spire, the team that bought that charter and is running that with the mindset of building something over time, right now they're pretty much in a mode of we're hanging on, we're hanging around.
Well, let me give you a couple of races. I'm just going to give you some names here. You got Ryan Blaney, you got Alex Bowman, Eric Amarola, Suarez, Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson.
Mm-hmm. There's the 50 car, by the way.
You know what they haven't done that Spire's done? They won a race.
Won with Justin Haley in a rain situation at Daytona.
Look, man, every single person we can talk about that win till we're blue in the face. They have a trophy. They got the winner's check, and they have that on their mantle wherever they go for the rest of their lives. Jimmy Johnson would take that win at this point of the year more than anything he's ever done.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but one of the frustrating things that I see, we talked about it, we just briefed on it, it's frustrating. We're getting down to we have 1 race left in the Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs. We had 26 races, and then our playoffs start with the last 3 rounds of 3 races each. But as we move forward with NASCAR doing these reschedules and reforming lines on the schedules, I wish we could align our championships starts better.
It gets there by the end. All right, it sounds like you're climbing up on the soapbox here, but it seems like they can get there by the end, but the playoffs for each of the 3 national series don't start at the same time.
And it's so anticlimactic because
like they've already had 2 playoff races in
the truck series.
Yeah.
Right. The truck series has already had 2 playoffs. Nobody else has. We're a race away from the playoffs in the Cup Series, and then playoffs. And then when the Cup Series gets, well, then the Xfinity has 1 more race.
Yeah.
You're like, God almighty, can we not? It seems so convoluted in how we start these playoffs. But I wish the truck should do it, then the Xfinity, we should build up to it. And it ramps up and then it stops and stalls. And it's almost like the truck series schedule used to be when we raced in January and then raced in April.
Yeah. It had a long layoff.
Yeah, you're like, you lose some of the momentum. Like by the time the Monster Energy Cup Series starts playoffs, nobody's thinking about the Xfinity guys, and
they haven't reached their playoffs.
No, they haven't reached it yet.
Yeah.
So we're 1 more race away, and they get it after Vegas. I think we should have trucks, then Xfinity, and the Monster Cup to where we build it up and it goes, and man, we're celebrating and everything's going
climbing
well.
the mountain.
Yeah, but it doesn't. We kind of fall off a cliff, and it's kind of really weird. But the weekend at Darlington is very, very special. The Truck Series has Eldora. They have a very unique opportunity for the trucks. The Xfinity guys that go back-to-back road courses, that's kind of something unique over there. And Darlington now, and I don't know when it started, 5, 6, 7 years ago?
I think it's 6.
Okay, it's been special every year. The race teams that take hold of it, I get a little disappointed in some of the sponsors that don't want to participate as heavily in that event as most of the race teams do. The Wood Brothers every year do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I thought we had a very authentic car because it was their throwback of their own car with their own car number, and their dad, Glenn Wood, was on the car. We had fantastic uniforms. You see the guys in the white shoes and the white pants. It's fantastic. The color schemes just bring back a flood of memories when you're watching on the roof. These cars going around in circles with Brad and the old 2-car with Rusty. And that seems kind of cool that Rusty's in the booth calling the race. And, like last year, he was able to win that race in that car.
And then Rusty goes down to Victory Lane to talk to him.
Yeah, and you saw the emotions that came from Bubba Wallace, Darrell Wallace, driving that 43, which is a representative of Adam Petty, who we lost, unfortunately 10, 11 years ago now. And it's just a really cool weekend. We go back to normal next weekend.
And the Xfinity guys even do it as well.
Even did it. Yeah. We had movie themes. We had race
Days
cars.
of Thunder.
Days of Thunder was well represented in both series. So it's a really cool weekend. We are in 2019, but it's nice to cool and go back and see how we really had a good time back in the 1990s. Was this weekend's kind of theme was the early 1990s.
Well, maybe that's a situation where we can get there over time because there is some schedule realignment next year as the contracts with the individual tracks run out. And then the year after, we're expecting even more changes. Maybe some of that realignment you're talking about will take effect then because there are some big decisions to be made.
Yeah, and I don't think, we talked about, NASCAR buying out ISC. That seems like it's going in the right direction, and SMI going private, and done different avenues to realign, like you're saying.
It opens up possibilities.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the only one that recognizes the fact that our truck, Xfinity, and Cup isn't in the right order as we work our way to the playoffs because the momentum is lost for a minor league series in the Xfinity. We should be ramping it up the whole way. The truck, Xfinity, and Cup should be the last one.
Would you rather see them crown each champion and then their season ends as we continue forward, or still crown all three in the season finale?
No, I like the triple header weekend that we have in Homestead that'll be moving to Phoenix. I think that's fantastic from a race standpoint. One of my favorite weekends of the whole year is when we have the double header truck, Xfinity on Saturday, and then the Cup on Sunday. I love when we have all three series representing. But the way we do our championship now, and the trucks start it, and then we go to Cup playoffs, and then Xfinity, it just doesn't seem like it's very smooth, and it kind of loses some of its luster.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue along and await some more of that schedule realignment. But first, we got to talk about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll hear from Brad Keselowski and do that after this.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. This is our house, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and it's packed full of classic and present-day cars, including Petty's, Earnhardt's, and Waltrip's, as well as interactive experiences, realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Hey guys, Corley Joy. Join me and my friends Lauren Fox and Daryl Mott on the Sunday Money Podcast as we talk racing.
What happened in California? Like, what is
Yeah, they all sat at the end of pit road waiting for one guy to be the sacrificial lamb, and nobody wanted to do it. And just life.
Did you fall in love on TV?
No, definitely not. I could not.
Plus, you never know who might stop by.
Young Ryan Blaney's here with something he's saying.
I brought you our script because you guys are like our show. So
it's Sunday Money on MRN.com, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts.
I think that the reaction that we get from going to Indy is always going to vary. There's always going to be some open wheel loyalists who, would rather not see us there. But, there's also been a fan base there that really loves having us there. So, I'm kind of mixed. I know I really enjoyed winning there. It's a big deal to me. It'd be a bummer if it wasn't on the schedule because we wouldn't have a shot to win there. So I'd hate to see that go away. But, that race has its challenges that I think are well documented. And I wish there was a way to work through them. I don't really have any specific ideas on what to do there. Seems like there's a few people working on it. But, I'd hate to see it go away, mostly out of pure selfishness. But as for what's best for the sport and all that, I can't say I know all the scenarios to understand that fully.
Brad Keselowski, a Brickyard winner, solidly locked into the playoffs this year, and that kind of gets back to the schedule thing that we were talking about earlier. Indianapolis's date is moving next year. It's going to be hot.
It's really, really hot. One of the things that we've talked about Indy and the relationship with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway versus a 3,400-pound race car. Every year we try to go back to make the racing better, and we keep working on the car.
Mm-hmm.
We can go back and look at Homestead Motor Speedway when it was built 15 years ago or so. It was designed after Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It understood after several races that the racing wasn't good.
That wasn't going to work.
And at the time, changing the car for that one racetrack wasn't an option. So Homestead Motor Speedway, Homestead
Miami Speedway,
changed the whole track, tore it up, grounded, grabbed bulldozers, dragged it, and changed the configuration. That didn't work. So what'd they do? They drug it up again and changed the track again. And now we have one of the best top 5 premier racing surfaces in the business. It was one of the first variable banking tracks that we went to. You can run top to bottom. It produces really good racing.
And that just means it gradually gets to its maximum banking.
Yep, with the shortest way around the track, which is the shortest way around the track is the flattest in the corners. The longest way around the track is the most banked. So it gets the bottom car and the top car very equal. What you would see at like a test facility, at the Detroit test facility. So that's very unusual back then. Now we see a lot of tracks as they repave or redo their corners, they go to a variable banking. My point is, Brad said it's been identified. We don't race well in a Cup car at the Brickyard. One thing's not going to happen. They're not tearing up the Brickyard.
No,
to
not
change
happening.
it. No, not going to happen. So, the question rises, do you run the road course, or is it timed out? Now, again, I mentioned 10 minutes ago, you can rewind it and hear it. It's one of the 4 big races. It's a crown jewel.
Just because of the history of the place.
Exactly right. And that's the thing. It doesn't mean it's a great race, but every single race car driver wants to win it. And the only way you can win it is to race there. So there's the dilemma, and Brad said that. Look, selfishly, he wants to win another crown jewel. We were fortunate enough to win last year. And the only way you can win it is to race it. So you have that dilemma. We hope the new package this year will put on closer races. It's still to be determined. A lot of questions will be still to be asked come Friday and Saturday's practice. Very, very tight corners, single lane, a lot of on throttle. And if you're on throttle, it's very difficult to pass if everybody's on the same throttle you are. And that's what we're going to tell you. It's going to see. We're going to see where it goes. It's going to be a similar race, I think. I'm not anxious to it's somebody asked me this weekend, what's the hardest place to spot at? And for me personally, the Brickyard is one of the hardest. Visibility is limited. You have 2 spotters, and anytime you add spotters, it makes it more difficult.
Yeah, I came up there and saw your spot a couple of years ago, and you can see the city, and you can't really see the race cars sometimes.
Right.
Well, the city's way off in the distance, but you can see it clearly from where your perch is.
Yeah, the exiting of turn 2 down the backstretch into 3 is a very difficult area to see. So you're trying to help your driver, but when something happens, you're very late on the call because you're looking for smoke or something to happen. But again, very prestigious race. Like the Kentucky Derby of horse racing, you go there as an event. You don't really go there to go, hey, I want to watch great racing. If you want to watch great racing, go to your local short track and the Bowman Grays of the world where they're beating and banging and they all get in fights.
Isn't that where the official kind of got run over almost with a car and they had to pull the guy out or something here recently? Did you see that?
That's like a weekly thing.
Yeah, but I mean, this was a little bit over and above even for them.
Well,
but anyway, be that as it may, as we talk about that, I had a chance to chat with Cliff Daniels, Jimmy Johnson's new crew chief, about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You can hear that one on NASCAR Live coming up this week, Tuesday nights at 7 with Mike Bagley. But about the challenge of making a 3,400-pound stock car race well on a track that's designed for open-wheel cars.
Well, we can go back several years back to where a tire company has been building tires all their lives. That's what they do. Goodyear Tire Company out of Ohio. Is it Canton? Not Canton. That's another sport, but they're in Ohio, okay? They've been building tires all their lives. They're really, really good at building tires. Every 10 laps, they were blowing at Indy. I mean, it's just that much of a challenge.
That was several years ago.
Several years back. We ended up having a caution every 10 laps, but to put tires on because the tires were simply blowing out. The tires didn't take rubber. The track didn't take rubber like they had tested, and it just wore the tires out. But Goodyear, it wasn't like they built a flawed tire. It's just the challenge of trying to get. When you take a 3,400-pound race car and make it go 190 miles an hour and then ask it to change directions,
it doesn't want to do that.
But it's a 90-degree turn.
Right.
A 90-degree turn.
Like in your neighborhood where you would have to stop and put the blinker on.
And go turn. In your subdivision, you're going 190 miles an hour and it's 3 or 4 or 5-degree turn. You don't have a lot of banking. It simply stresses a lot. Not only does it stress the crew chiefs out, but it stresses the tires and chassis, and the drivers really have a difficult time getting around there. and then you try to put them side by side going in each corner, and it simply doesn't work.
Yeah. The differences we've seen between speaking of those tires, by the way, we need to give away some. We were talking about tires, and while we're doing that, why don't we give away some?
That's a heck of a
Or tell
segue.
folks how they can win.
You know, Darlington is really famous for using up tires. We had 14 sets of tires. Now we're gonna dial it back here a little bit on MRN Outloud. We're just gonna give away one set. You know how to do that?
One a month.
One a month you can do. You can get online. You have to get on the computer.
Mash your buttons.
And you're going to go www, stands for World Wide Web, by the way.
Look at you bringing the trivia.
World Wide
there you
Web.
go. All right.
HerculesTire.com
/ MRN.
So that's how you do it. It's simple.
Little Joey fainted.
He just got so excited. That's how excited he was to give away free tires. But
he doesn't even drive.
We used 14 sets in Darlington. You can get your free set once a month. www.HerculesTire.com. I've even written it down here in case you want to see it.
You can win. You too can win.
So one a month. You can get one free set a month for HerculesTire.com / MRN.
And it's cool. Yeah. Free stuff. We always like free stuff.
Yeah.
Onions and tires. On this program.
It's the Tires and Onions show.
But back to the comparison, the Xfinity cars have been running a version of what the Cup cars have now in Indianapolis, and it's worked out well for them. It's improved the racing. Do you expect a similar improvement on the Cup side?
I don't. I really don't. I believe because I think you've stretched what the Xfinity cars are doing on the Cup side, and we're just better at doing it on the Cup side. You know, you still have a bigger aero. We have more downforce. The more downforce you add on these cars, which the Cup side has more than the Xfinity, the more you have, then that's the bigger penalty you pay in dirty air. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to get these cars to handle better in traffic by giving them more downforce. But when you're in behind somebody and that guy simply is taking yours away and you needed more to begin with, you have a bigger penalty. Some of the best racing we had were cars with way less downforce, and we do have.
Where you have to lift and you have to maneuver it.
Well, but you didn't save a penalty by being in behind somebody
because everybody else has to do it as well.
The Neil Bonnets and the David Pearsons and the early Dale Earnhardts and the Dave Marcuses and all the old guys. One of the words they never used was aero push.
Yeah,
these cars were off the ground. They didn't squat down. Now, how do we get away from that? You're never going to get away from that because it's a learned technology. The reason Dale Earnhardt didn't have it, the reason the old Rusty Wallaces didn't have it, Neil Bonnets, David Pearsons, is because we didn't know about it. The cars were still capable of doing it. The engineers weren't involved in the sport. The crew chiefs weren't aware. All we worked on is mechanical grip with springs and tires and cambers. When Harry Gant set the world on fire and won 5 races in a row, it wasn't from an aero standpoint. It was because he had a different mechanical advantage. He had the rear end camber, which is what they did back when so well, and gained a huge mechanical grip. We can't unlearn the aero side. We will always have it. As long as these cars have bodies on them, we will always manipulate the bodies to give us a little more side force, a little more down force, a little more under force, a little less drag, and that's the way it works.
Underforce. That sounds like a superhero, doesn't it? Like,
Underforce.
you know, a superhero
Dun-dun-dun,
team.
Underforce.
So why isn't it as simple as what we hear a lot from fans? Just get the cars up off the ground.
Because even if you get them up off the ground, you still have a car that's going through the air, creating drag, creating lift, creating side force. If I can change my underbody, okay, my underforce, I'm changing that next to your car. We're still going to create it. The only thing we're going to do is create less of it, right? We can't unlearn it. Like I said earlier, back in the day when we took a car off the showroom, you know, Smokey Unick was one of the first from an aero standpoint relative to when Bill Elliott had his car that was 7/8 of an inch smaller, or they only built it to 7/8 of an inch. Those are things that we started learning back then about how important aero was. Well, we really know how important it is now. You can't unlearn that. You're always going to have a wheel well opening that's going to be tighter than the next guy's. You're always going to have a body that's flatter on the right side than the next guy's because it's simply about what we've learned. You can't unlearn it. And it'll always be important until we race.
It's going to be a fun thing to watch this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A lot to come. It's the season finale in terms of the regular season. And as we roll in there, you've got Those 4 guys still on the bubble who are on the bubble heading into Darlington. You got Clint Boyer being tied now with Daniel Suarez as they move forward here. One of those guys is going to likely make it. The other not likely to make it. Jimmy Johnson has 18 points to make up. If he's going to be in the playoff battle for the continue his career, his streak of making the playoff series, a 7-time champion, but he's got some work to do as we go to Indy.
Yeah, he has to not only run well, right, but if Ryan Newman and Daniel Suarez still run right behind him, he could almost win the race.
Mm-hmm.
When the race gets him in, I get it.
Right.
But, I mean, from a point standpoint, he could almost finish second and not get in if those guys finished right behind him and got more stage points during the race. And that's what's important. He's got himself back into a corner to where almost winning is going to be his only way in because he has to beat 2 other drivers to solidly get in that top 16.
Yeah, he can count. That's the thing that always I think of when you get that in that position. You might be able to count on one guy having trouble, but when you have to start counting on 2 or 3 or 4 guys to have problems, that math is just against you.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not talking about, bad guys. We've got, the Eric Amarolas, the Clint Boyers, Daniel Suarez. Those guys all ran good this weekend, and I think Indy will be the same thing.
Yeah. All right, we'll check it out this week. On the Motor Racing Network, we will have NASCAR Live, as we mentioned, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday night. Mike Bagley is your host. We'll have more of that Kyle Larson one-on-one interview that we aired on Sunday for the Bojangles Southern 500. He'll talk about some racing he's got coming up this week and a karting deal that he has for kids coming up. You'll want to hear more about that and the interview we mentioned with Cliff Daniels, the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson, talking about the challenges of making a car go fast on the Cup side at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They have their own radio network. Motor Racing Network will not be there this weekend. Truck Series back in action on September 13th at Las Vegas. End of round 1 of their playoffs. Until then, stick with us. Check out MRN.com. I'm Woody. That's Joey. See you next week.